Hi, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. Today we're going to be making this beautiful card. We're using the Beautiful Day stamp set, and we're going to use a technique called no line coloring. Now, I've seen this technique done mostly with watercoloring, but I have to say I am not the best at watercoloring. So I went ahead and tried it using the Stampin Blends, and I think it turned out pretty good. So the whole idea is that you don't see the line of the stamp when you are done coloring it. You just see the beautiful image. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So the first thing you're going to need is your card front, and I've cut this a little bit on the small side so that I could have this border. So this is crumb cake, and so the crumb cake is cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and so this is 1/8 of an inch smaller on both the length and the width. So it's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So the first thing that you need to do is get a light ink pad. So I'm using Sahara sand. Ink it up, and then you're going to stamp off and then stamp on your paper. And this just gives you a lighter color because what we want is just a very faint image so that those lines don't show when we're done coloring. So ink it, stamp off, and then stamp on. So we have a lot to color, so this is going to take some time. So I will show you how I do it first, and I'm sure there are so many different ways to do this and to achieve similar results. This is just the way that I have found that works best for me. And then I'll probably speed it up and maybe just color even just one on video, and then I will do the rest off video and come back and show you how I put the card together. So let's focus on this one up here in the corner. It gives us a full leaf, so I can show you how I did the leaf, as well as the center and some of the petals. So I am using the Stampin' Blends. I really love these markers, and they are totally worth the investment of getting them. And I guess it's not really a big investment, but I've really enjoyed having them. So one of the things is that you do need, for this project, you do need the 2 colors. So right now I've got a light and dark of the Calypso Coral, and then the light and dark of the Old Olive. And then you're going to need the color lifter. This is going to give us some, lighten up some of the color so that it looks like it's got some highlights. And then you'll need one that's a little bit on the darker side, in the kind of the neutrals, blacks or browns or grays. And this is just going to give us a darker color to kind of help everything, kind of make things feel more rich and realistic. So I'm using the light smoky slate. I think this works really well with the colors that I have. And then I'm using just some yellow and orange for the inside to give it some depth. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the dark Calypso Coral. Now the reason I'm starting with this is because it kind of helps keep the image for each petal separate. I found that if I was working on the petals individually, then the petals kind of melded together while I was working on them, so I needed to kind of outline them first. So I'm just going to go ahead and start outlining all the petals. I do try to keep the petal in like a fluid motion so it looks like a petal. So you're probably wondering why I didn't just stamp in the Calypso Coral color. And the reason for that is because this color is going to blend into the flower. Plus, then we'd have a pink leaf, because this image does include a leaf. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step would be to take your light color. In the case, I'm using the Calypso Coral, and you're going to start by filling in the whole petal with that Calypso Coral. Let's just do this one. So you can see that we can still see some of those dark colors. The next would be to grab the dark color, and you're going to find where the shade would be. And so the shade is going to be kind of behind some of those petals that are on top. Okay, so I'm just kind of shading in where I want the shade of the petal to be. And then the next step would be the shadows. So I'm just going to come along and add just a touch of shadows behind those top petals. And we want that to just really be very subtle. So let me show you the different layers. So we have the light layer. So we first have the outline, the light layer, the dark color layer, and then the shadow layer. And then I go ahead and take the light color and I start blending those in. So if you've never used our Stampin Blends before, they are an alcohol-based marker. So they really blend very nicely together. You just can work them over and over and over until you get the blend that you want. So you can see how those are better blended. Okay, so another thing about alcohol markers is they do bleed through the back. So you just want to make sure that you're not working on anything special, that you protect your surface, and that you're not planning on using the back of this paper for anything. So when you're done with that, you just move on to the next. And the next one I'm going to do is just right here. So start with the light color, get a little bit of the dark color. I'm going to outline this just a little bit better. And then some of the shadow. And then go ahead and work all those colors into each other. There we go. So you just work like this around your flower until you're done. So I will go ahead and videotape myself doing this, probably just in speed it up so it's not super slow motion. And you can kind of see the process of making this flower. All right, so we have finished our flower, and now we're going to just take the color lifter and add just a little bit of highlights on each petal. So just along like that top part of each petal, I just do a little wisp of color lifter, and it will lift up color even just with a very little bit applied. So just give it a minute to work its magic, and you'll start to see a little bit of color lifting. We don't want a ton taken off, just a little highlight. You can see it starting to happen right here and right there a little bit. So let's do the leaf next. So kind of the same principle, we're going to just outline it with the dark color. The nice thing is that these pens also have a fine tip, and so I'm going to use that fine tip, and I'm just going to add a little extra details. I'm also going to add some yellow just to give this leaf just some other colors to interest. And I'm going to give this a little more shadow behind the flower with the green, and then with the smoky slate. There. So now that I've got some color in there, I'm just going to blend it all in with the light olive oil, the light old olive, just kind of to bring everything together. And then take my color lifter and just kind of lift out some of that color just in the middle of the leaf. Okay, and then the last thing would be the center. Now the center kind of can get muddled really easily because you're blending these colors together and it's such a small space. So I'm going to use the lighter of the yellows. So this is the Light Daffodil Delight. And I'm just going to start by adding that. And then I'm going to take the pumpkin pie, and this is the dark pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to kind of add with the fine tip side, just going to try to outline some of those little circles that are in the center. And I think that's all I'm going to do, because sometimes when we add another layer, it gets really blended together. Like, I'll show you my example. Like this one, I added yellow on top and it really just blended it together more than I wanted. So I kind of like that area to have a little more detail. And so I'm going to just leave it at that. Okay. So I think this flower turned out really beautiful. And I'm just going to go ahead and work on these other two flowers, and then I will start the video back up and we'll put the card together. All right, so we have, or I have finished coloring my 3 flowers. And the next step, if we look back at our card, I've done some splattering, and I used white and soft suede. So go ahead and grab those inks and an aqua painter. So if you haven't already, you're just going to squeeze the top and the bottom together to put ink in the lid, and then grab your aqua painter. And I have a special one that I use for white, so I don't ever have to clean it. It just is going to stay white for me. So get some water and your ink, and then use your lid, and you're just going to run the brush over the lid, and you're just splattering over your flowers. Now you're kind of probably going to say, why are we doing that? We just made these beautiful flowers. So if you don't want this look, you don't like it, you don't have to do it. It just, for me, it kind of adds this really interesting texture and kind of takes away from any of my imperfections that I did in the flower, because I'm not perfect. And then use your soft suede or another brown color and get a clean aqua painter. Put some water and then splatter that. Okay, when you like it, then you're going to let that dry. Clean your aqua painter and grab a tissue. Clean off the lid. Okay, so while that's drying, go ahead and get your card base and fold it, and your the back of your card front. And then let's go ahead and stamp our greeting. So I've got a 1/2 inch strip that's 3 inches wide, and I'm going to just stamp. In the set, it comes with this nice greeting that says, "Always thinking of you." Or I could use the happy birthday. And I'm just going to do it in black. Move that. Okay, so you can see that the back has, the markers bleed through to the back. So you don't want to do this like right on your card base, where you'll get that that bleeding into the middle of your card. Okay, then we're going to add this with some dimensionals, just to pop it up. Okay, so let's decide how this should be. I'm going to just put it like this. I'm going to center it on your card base. And then we're going to pop this up with some dimensionals as well. And if you wanted to, you could add some ribbon or some twine. I just wanted it to be really simple and focused on the flowers. And you could put this, really you could put this anywhere. You could put it in the center, on the side, on the top. I'm just going to place it right here on the side. In the 2019 holiday catalog, they have this beautiful shimmery crystal effects. And so I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of added those to my card as well. So it kind of just gives like these little raindrop kind of look. And I just kind of randomly put those around. So I'm going to just add those and just kind of a drop here or there. Just kind of random on my flowers. Whoop. Be careful that those little tails go up and not over. Mine had one that went over. So I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit. Okay. So I had a couple that went over, so I'm going to grab my pickup tool And at the end of my pickup tool, there's a flat edge, and I'm just going to carefully scrape off that extra part that came out. You know, like when you do hot glue and you have that tail of glue, that's kind of what's happened here. So I wanted it to go up so that it kind of fell back on top of itself and made like a drop instead of a line. So that worked really well. So that's given me, oh, I missed half of one. Okay, I think we'll be okay. All right, so we're just going to let that dry. I don't know if you can see those little dots. There's one right here. But we're going to let that dry, and then our card will be all done. I hope you enjoyed learning this fun technique with me today, and that you give it a try. Please subscribe, like, and share. Visit creativechelsea.com for a free tutorial of this project and to purchase the supplies needed. Have a creative day. Bye!